Welcome to another series of our videos. So in this video, we'll be discussing the topic governance. So we'll talk about what governance is, and we'll also talk about the characteristics of governance. So let's define the rock. So what is governance? So we'll define governance as the way people are ruled, or the way the governed are ruled. So there are two types of governance. There's bad governance and good governance. So in this video, we'll talk of good governance. So what is now the same thing called good governance? So good governance is when the government is legitimate, accountable, and transparent, respect human rights, respect the rule of law, and so many others. So this is what we call good governance. So now we'll be talking of the characteristics of good governance. So in good governance, citizens participate. So good governance allows citizen participation. So citizens, in short, these are just people of that country, people belonging to a particular country. So where there is good governance, these citizens are allowed to participate in the governance. All people take an active part in the affairs of their community and country. They elect their leaders, have the right to stand for public office, and mobilize for social action. For example, citizens can demonstrate against what they do not agree with. So this we've seen in most cases whereby citizens protest against, let's say, the rising of cost of living, the rising of in the prices of foodstuffs, and so on. Or maybe citizens are protesting against police brutality. So all those happen because citizens participate, or citizens are free to participate in how the country should be governed. Leaders are held accountable for their action. So this happens where there's citizen participation. So let's now look at another characteristic of good governance. Respect for the human rights. All forms of human rights are recognized, protected, and promoted. This happens only in good governance. Some of these rights are the right to vote, be voted into power, the right to security, freedom of assembly and association, and the freedom of conscience and expression. So, in good governance, human rights are recognized, protected, and promoted. No one is allowed to violate rights of another. No one is allowed to kill another person. No one is allowed to steal from another person. No one is allowed to kill another person or murder. If this happens, then we are violating the rights. For example, right to life, right to liberty, right to security, and so many other rights. So let's now look at another characteristic. Separation of powers. In good governance, there is separation of powers. So this is the principle that states that the three organs of the government, namely the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, must work independently. So this is a question that we need to ask ourselves. In our countries, do the government organs work independently? Does the legislature, executive, or the judiciary work independently? So these are the questions that we need to start asking ourselves. So the three organs must never interfere with each other in their operations. At the same time, they should check each other to ensure that they operate within the law. This is known as checks and balances. Separation of powers promotes democratic governance because power is not concentrated in the hands of one person. So you can imagine if all the power was concentrated in the hands of one person. For instance, the president had all powers. It would have been easy. The president can just order somebody, okay, go and arrest that person, go and kill that person, go and do that to that person, jail that person, jail that person. So in good governance, there's separation of powers, meaning the president can't have all powers. The powers are shared. The legislature have got their duty or have got their role to play. The executive have got they have their role to play, and the judiciary has its role to play. So this is important because they say power corrupts. So if power is concentrated in the hands of one person, then it's easy for that person to manipulate others. So therefore, genuine separation of powers can only exist where an individual belongs to only one of the three organs of government. So you can't call it separation of powers whereby an individual belongs to two or all of the three organs of the government. It's only true separation or genuine separation of powers whereby an individual only belongs to one organ of the government. If it's just belonging to the legislature, then that person should not belong to the executive or the judiciary. If that person belongs to the judiciary, then that person should not belong to the executive or the legislature, and so on. So we also look at the independence of the judiciary. So in good governance, the judiciary is vested, the judiciary should be independent. So this judiciary is vested with the responsibility of interpreting and enforcing laws. The Chief Justice and the judges should be free from interference by the executive or legislature. So this judiciary shouldn't be receiving instructions from the executive or instructions from the legislature. For instance, the president shouldn't give instructions to the judicial system to say, okay, jail that MP, do that, or make sure that that person is given more years to be in prison or is sentenced to spend a longer time in jail. Do that, do that. No. So in good governance, the judiciary is free to make its own decisions. Also, it is also important to note that the judges and the Chief Justice, once they are appointed, they should not be easily dismissed. So this is very important as it will be difficult for the political interference. Political intolerance. So in good governance, people with different political opinion must be able to freely express themselves, and their opinions should be respected. No one should make another person abide by their opinion. No one should force another person to follow what they want. So in good governance, everyone is free to express their opinion, and if I express my opinion, I expect my opinion to be respected. If another person expresses his or her own opinion, I should respect their opinion. So this is what we call political tolerance. One should not be forced to accept another person's opinion. Political violence against people who support different political parties or candidates should not be tolerated. So we've seen in many countries whereby people are trying to force other people to support their political ideologies. So this is an act of bad governance, or it is some kind of it's some kind of dictatorship. So in good governance, it is important to note that people who belong to different political parties, people who have different political ideologies should be respected, because it is their democratic right to belong to different political parties and to also have a different political ideology. So I shouldn't blame anybody to joining a certain political party and me joining to another political party. So we all have rights to join the political parties we want. Accountability and transparency. Accountability means that leaders should be answerable to the people who elected them in office. Transparency requires that public resources must be used for government and community programs and activities in consultation with the people. Any person who misuses public funds should be taken to court, and if proved guilt, should be punished and not allowed to stand for public office. So this is very important. People should not take advantage of the positions that they've been given, or the leadership roles that they've been entrusted with. So many are the times when leaders take advantage of these leadership positions for their personal benefits or for their personal gains. So they would steal, either say they will steal for the future, or they steal so that they ensure that their family, their relatives, their children do not suffer for the rest of their lives at the expense of the majority citizens suffering. So it is important that these leaders are held accountable. They should be transparent. They shouldn't steal. There should be no corruption. So if a leader is found wanting, or if a leader is found that he stole, these people should be taken to court, and if they are found guilty, they should be prosecuted. For instance, the Constitution of Zambia forbids any person to stand for a political office if he or she has been convicted for a criminal offense within a period of 5 years before the elections nomination day. So this is an important action or a solution to deter the would-be offenders, because they will know that if I commit or if I do that, then I won't be allowed to stand for the public office. So this is also an important action against or these offenders, or it also prevents the would-be offenders from committing such acts. Let's also look at the seventh point. In good governance, elections are regular, free, and fair. So elections must be held at agreed intervals. Every citizen who has reached the voting age should register and vote. No one should deny anyone the right to vote, or no one should say, you are not allowed to register as a voter, but when that person meets the criteria for one to register as a voter, no one is allowed to deter another person from registering as to be a voter. So the right to vote is also known as the universal suffrage or franchise. Voting should be by secret ballot. No one uh, should force somebody to vote or to ask them to say, okay, let me see what is you're voting, let me see the candidate you are voting for. Or nobody should force somebody to say, tell me the person you have voted for or the person you're voting for, otherwise you'll be beaten. That no one should tell the other that such a thing, or no one should threaten the other, because voting should be by secret ballot. Political parties must have freedom to inform the people about their policies and programs in their manifestos. So this um, this is also important, or this will come about, or this will be a success when there's when elections are free, or when elections are fair, meaning the environment is conducive for any political party to disseminate information to the electorate. So this affords the electorate a chance to vote for candidates of their choice. So no one should be forced to vote for a particular candidate. Anyone or any person should be given an opportunity to choose a candidate of their choice, or in other terms, their preferred candidate. So so in this diagram is showing people in a polling station. So this is inside of a polling station. So we can see here a woman is voting. So this is secret, it's hidden, no one should see what this woman is voting for, which candidate this woman is voting for. Then you can see the man here, the ballots are folded so that no one sees the person he has voted for. Then you can see here that he's dropping the secret ballots in these ballot boxes. Then here, this is the polling staff, or the polling agent, or yes, the polling agent. So this is just an example of a polling station, or inside of a polling station. Then in good governance, there is respect for the rule of law. The rule of law means that the government, or those in power, rule the country in accordance with the constitution and other laws of the country. All people in the country are subjected to the same laws and should be held accountable if they break them. No one is above the law. No one is special. No one should be treated differently. Everyone should be treated equal. This is what rule of law tells us. There should be equity in application of laws. So, therefore, there should be no discriminatory application of laws. Everyone is equal before the law, and no person is above the law. So this is happening in good governance. The rule of law makes government leaders accountable to the people who they lead. Their operations should be authorized by constitution of the country. So in good governance, the political parties are also allowed to exist. These political parties have the duty to point out the shortcomings of the government in power. They provide alternative programs through manifestos. These political parties, they will sell their messages to the citizens saying, we are the alternative. If this government doesn't do their duty or their role, we are the alternative. We have these things that we can deliver. So this is done through their manifestos. The existence of political parties promotes good governance by providing checks and balances. So we can tell that these political parties, they are very important for democracy to thrive. They also facilitate peaceful transfer of power from one political party to another party. So the 10th point is the existence of civil society organizations. Civil society should operate without government interference. A civil society is an indispensable means of maintaining good governance. A civil society is a group. So now we are defining what a civil society is. So a civil society is a group of voluntary individuals and organizations which are not part of government institutions. So these also ensure that they fight for their interests. Let's say if these are civil societies, let's say they make sure that human rights are not violated, or let's say these civil societies, they look that citizens are not exploited. So all such civil society organizations exist in good governance. Then fairness. In good governance, the government should make sure that no one is excluded from access to any public service for reasons of race, color, creed, gender, mental, or physical disability. No region or constituency should be discriminated by government on grounds of its political affiliation. So there shouldn't be something like, no, this northern part of the country or this central part or this western part of the country they belong to, or this is the stronghold for this and that political party, so we want to deliver to this region. That shouldn't be a thing in good governance. There should be fairness. Government workers should be recruited and promoted openly on merit, and they should carry out functions of government impartially. People should not be appointed into public office on grounds of ethnicity or nepotism. So fairness is a very important point in good governance. No one should be appointed because this person is related to the minister, or this person is related to a member of parliament, or this person is related to the president, or this person is related to the senator. There should be fairness in the appointments or recruitment because this person is competent. People should be appointed or recruited because they are competent, they qualify for that position, and they meet the criteria, not because this person belongs to the president or the minister. No, there should be fairness in our governance system. So in good governance, the government should be helpful and caring. Good governance requires that the government should be helpful and take care of interests of its citizens, both at home and abroad. Public services. So, public services should be provided and run to suit the convenience of those who use them, not those who provide them. So, these public services, it is embarrassing to find that people representing the citizens in their from their constituencies or wards, they are the ones demanding to say, let uh let let's have our allowances increased, let's have our salaries increased, while the people who voted for them are suffering. So public services should be provided and run to suit the convenience of those who use them, not those who provide them. Good governance makes sure that public servants are properly trained in public relations and there are clearly defined standards of behavior for those who serve the public directly. So this is important in governance, particularly in good governance. So at this point, thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.